Welcome to the Success Playbook by Expertrons and Shine, where we deep dive into career stories and actionable advice for freshers looking to excel in their professional journeys. I'm your host, Jatin Solanki, co-founder of Expertrons, a TEDx speaker, IIT Bombay alumni, and a serial entrepreneur. Today, we have a very special guest with us, Mr. Gautam Mehra, a talent management champion and a change evangelist. You name an aspiring company from Muthoot, Bajaj, Bharti AXA, Tech Mahindra, Reliance Capital, and Gautam has each of them in his career journey. Gautam's extensive experience in developing talent and transforming organization will offer you invaluable insights on how to shape your career from day one. So, hey Gautam, how are you?
I've been good, yeah. I've been very good.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, Gautam, thanks a lot for joining us in this podcast, and I'm sure it is going to help millions of aspirants out there who are actually looking out for career advice. Before we dive into this amazing career journey of yours, which spans across years, I would love to ask you a fun question. So, if you weren't doing what you're doing today, what completely different career do you think you'd be in?
I would be in the kitchen.
Like I did kind of go through your profile and how your career came from kitchen to managing people and doing a lot of work across talent management. So
Yeah.
so your journey spans across like various of these roles, from working as group head of people and culture at Muthoot to leading talent management efforts at Bajaj Capital. Can you share some key turning points in your career and how freshers can learn from those experiences?
See, it's a um, tricky question to say because there is no scientific answer for that. But my personal learning is a mixture of things that people may find very surprising. The first thing that you need to understand is that you need to be proactive in your own growth. I see the newer generation of talent, and they kind of believe that it's the organization's accountability to give a career path and so on and so forth. But for me, over the last 2.5 decades, what has been critical is to be able to take ownership of my own development and growth. So there are a couple of things that you have to follow through. A is to understand what are your core skill sets. That's very important, especially for people who are freshers. In the initial couple of years, they will have a lot of discovery moments where they'll know where their expertise lies, which will kind of set pace for their career. And I think the second most important thing that I learned is that in growing world that we are in now, people need to have hybrid competencies, which means you can't just be one job person. You need to at least have 2 or 3 skill sets.
Okay. No, I think that kind of makes a lot of sense because earlier you used to be one person, one role, and that's absolutely true for a lot of our parents' generation or even before that because they used to be tagged into a single bucket, into a single role, and into even a similar type of company for 30 to 40 years of their career. And compared to what it is today and how rapidly things are changing in the career space, you of course need to have that overall journey or overall skill set to kind of be there.
Sure.
So I'm sure, I mean, this is something really valuable to our audience. I would love to know more about your career journey on when you started your career. So how did your journey kind of start at one place to end up into another one? Yeah.
So back in 92, when I was still in school, and ZTV had just launched, and India's first large cookery show, Khana Khazana, had started. And I told my mom that the day I grow older, I will become Sanjeev Kapoor. Okay, because I was
Wow.
always passionate about cooking. That was the declaration I made in 1992. And
Wow.
I come from a very low middle class family, so there was great deal of financial challenges. So just like a peculiar Indian boy, I did have
Right.
a conscious, radar on my head that I have to start working early and I have to start earning early. After my schooling, when I was in college, I started doing odd jobs just to ensure that I could earn some dole for the family. In the meanwhile, I would also save some of my pocket money. And after my, higher secondary, which was my 12th grade, I kind of did a 6 months diploma in IHM without telling my mom because she was against the fact that, I want to become a chef. But then I did that, and then I got through as a trainee apprentice with Sea Princess in Jugu, and I had a
Wow.
very hardworking stint over there. I worked there for a little less than 2 years, but the salary was extremely less, so I had to leave that job and then get into conventional jobs. So, if you ask me, the starting of my career was yes, of course, based on what I wanted to do because I was extremely passionate about cooking. but I had to drop it because I had financial needs to fulfill. And that's when I switched to more conventional jobs. So, and then the rest of it happened. My longest stint in my career was with Tech Mahindra, which was 12 years. And that
Wow.
is where my talent was kind of recognized. Of course, I had a lot of support from my, organization and an open opportunity to move from, customer service and customer retention into talent management and OD. So that's where my switch of the first 8 years of my career moved into human resources. So I was moved on a secondment for 6 months, and then I got promoted as an assistant manager. And the rest, of course, it's almost been 2 decades now of HR experience.
So that's really amazing. Like if we just uh, take it back to the beginning, and if you were to give advice to your 20-year-old self, what would you say? And
I would say um, you will get all the recognition, respect, money, growth as you grow in your career. What is important in the initial stage of your career is to be able to maintain your integrity, and there is no shortcut to hard work. I would say I think the initial 8-10 years of your career is going to be about really working hard. And that doesn't mean you have to work 10, 12 hours. It just means you have to put in really honest hours, have a lot of
right,
discipline at work, be committed to what you're doing. I think if that's, and I've done that, I take great pride in sharing that the first decade of my career was a very conscious decade. I took very calculated decisions in terms of what kind of performance levels do I need to have? Can I just be a mediocre person and get the 3 rating and grow in life? Or do I have to ensure that every year is a 5 rating? And so if, my average talk time is so much, or if this is my customer retention, then my next quarter's target is definitely going to be 20-25% more. So
wow,
you really have to give it all. And because you're younger and you're a lot more creative, you're able to push yourself a lot more. And I'll tell you, once you grow older, you know a lot. So it's about being a subject matter expert, but doing things at a faster pace. And that will
right.
only happen when you put in your initial first 8 to 10 years of integrity and hard work. I think these two things are extremely important. I'd insist freshers to focus on that.
Those early years actually build character,
They
and
do.
I'm sure a lot of work, what you did during those years, kind of helped you shape a lot of what Gotham is today, and that's really good to hear. Like just going back to your days in the kitchen too, and then kind of the switch into ICICI, and then because you did speak about Tech Mahindra a little bit, so how did that switch happen? Like how did you kind of go to your first employer in the professional space? And I'm sure, like, I mean, anything they looked on your CV was, okay, graduation and chef trainee. And post that, of course, how did the Tech Mahindra opportunity happen for you?
So ICICI happened purely by through a agency listing, and I kind of went there and I had a very simple interviewer. There were a couple of very generic questions that were asked about what, I'm unfortunately or fortunately very peculiar questions of where do I see myself from 5 years, and what are my core strengths. And so I told them very clearly, I think whether it is about being in the kitchen or whether it is about doing a job, I think I'm extremely passionate about what I do. So if I've decided to pick up a career in a more corporate environment, so my focus is going to be on delivering what I do. And then they asked me, where do you see yourself from 5 years? I said, I don't know if I have visibility, but now that I've decided, I definitely, one of the biggest focus areas I have is to grow financially. We grow in an environment where we are made to believe that along with growth, your financial, you know, stability is very important. So
Right,
inevitably it becomes a part of your goal sheet, right?
right,
So the generation right now is completely evolved. They are very different people. For people who are freshers, the more they kind of do self-reflect and understand what is important for them, it kind of gives them visibility to the next 6 months and then next 12 months and then next 18 months. What I would say is that, you keep reflecting on what you can see for yourself, and, that's what kind of leads the path.
you were an honest fresher, so to say, because I mean, you of course did not have the preparation on
Correct.
5 years from now and all of that at that point, and you
Correct.
were honest enough to kind of have all of that
Correct.
laid down in your first set of interviews. Roti, kapda, and makan for a lot of us,
Yeah.
and financial security. A lot of Indians are still like first generational graduates. Parents have not even completed graduation, and then we were those set of kids who were like first generation graduates. But yeah, I mean this is really good on how you kind of took your career from an unconventional path to a conventional path. We also noticed that you've worked across a wide range of roles and companies.
Yeah.
What do you believe are the key skills freshers today should focus on developing to excel in talent management space, especially if they aim to work in people-centric roles like yours?
So I do a lot of these sessions with B school graduates, and one of the
Right,
important skills that you need in a people industry, specifically when you're doing talent management and OD, is networking. Okay, because these are subject matter expertise roles, so you cannot expect yourself to have a very large team. Okay, the thing about center of excellence or talent management in ODs, it's a very lean profession. Okay, you're more of thought leaders, and hence what you need to build is a group of affluent leaders in the organization who kind of are a capitalist. They're basically they're catalyst of the work that you're doing. You'll always have a team of 2 or 3 people, and there's a lot of thought leadership that you do, and then the execution is more dependent on the stakeholders. Be interested in what people are doing, because when
right,
you're interested in what they do, they'll kind of support you in what you want to help them with. And the second most important skill that you need to have is that you need to be consultative in nature, right? So you don't want to slap solutions on people's face. What you want to do is co-create with your stakeholders. So
right.
first, build a network, have your acquaintances, have your, those change makers that you've identified in different areas of the organization, and then co-create things with them, like consult with them, ask them, take their
Right.
input, make it look
Right.
more like it is their idea and not yours. So
Right. This is really important, Gautam, and you've put it in a very, very interesting way because people tend to jump to solution
yeah,
than listening, than kind of and the art of making someone believe that they have come up with a solution with you. So I mean, and these are really fabulous advice for freshers. Any professional, any freshers who want to kind of stand out in their role as a fresher, what do you see is important for their long term success in the job market? And how would they stand out from the crowd? Because I'm sure you, in your long stint of career, would have, of course, faced a lot of competition from your peers, from people applying at Tech Mahindra, applying at all these different companies, and not only at your early stage, but even as you grew up the ladder, the company, of course, had options to kind of choose from different leaders to make a group head or pick a management leader. And like, what would be your advice for anyone to kind of stand out?
I would say be curious and be a learner, or rather be a curious learner. So I think curiosity is a very important skill. And for me, I've always been fascinated by different angles of human resources. A lot of time when you get into any profession, you are made to believe like it's a standalone piece, like L&D is a standalone piece, or talent management and OD is a standalone skill set. Of course, yeah, technically there are some things that you do which you not do in L&D, but
Right,
what is important to understand is that to be able to be an effective leader or to be an effective contributor to the organization, just being an HR expert is not going to help you. So you have to be curious about what operations does, what sales does, what marketing does, and you have to keep learning about what are the different, like, AML, artificial intelligence and machine learning. Now, which human resource I find that people are not curious about understanding. But there was a time where AI/ML was so huge, okay, and big data and Internet of Things, if you remember.
right,
So,
absolutely.
so it's very important to be curious about not just the skill set that you are in or the function that you are in, but the large business, right? Because you're holding a role which impacts everybody in the organization. So it's very,
Right,
very important, and it's imperative that you're always curious, and then the curiosity leads to learning. So if you ask me how I did so well, and I feel so good when I look back at my journey that I worked in Tech Mahindra where there was 11,000 people, and then Bajaj, and then finally Muthoot where there were 40,000 people. And
wow,
it's a sense of achievement that you're heading a group where there are
right,
40,000 people and you're designing a performance management system or a talent management framework or a leadership development
wow,
journey. And it's
Wow.
impacting so many people, or a reward and recognition program or employee engagement frameworks, so it feels good. But at the same point of time, only happens when you are very curious. You need to know what exactly does the person does at the branch, right?
Right.
I'm sitting here in the head office. Those
And
people are in 4,000 different locations, and
wow.
exactly investing your time in understanding what happens, what challenges do they face with IT, with customers
Right.
coming to do a gold pledging. What are the integrities involved? They're not just dealing with targets, but they're also dealing with people's emotions. You have to keep
Right.
all of those things in mind. So every individual has a journey. So you have to be curious about what is a customer service agent's journey like? What is an area manager's journey like? What is a
Right.
marketing head's journey like? We
Right.
we may have 4,000 branches, but necessarily
Right.
we only have 10 or 12 zonal marketing managers. So how challenging must it be for them to,
True.
kind of do BTL activities?
Amazing, Gautam. I mean, these are really some skills which I'm sure helped you stand out in your career journey. Any actual examples from your career stint you remember in terms of like as I started my question with you competing with your peers and like for you to kind of that.
You don't need to compete with anybody, first of all,
Right.
right? A
Right.
career journey is never about competition or standing out against somebody. If I give you a real life example, like when I was in Tech Mahindra, like that was my first stint in the human
Right.
resources skill set. And it started
Uh,
with a development journey
right.
that was called T, which is Team Leader Effectiveness Program, right?
Okay.
And before that journey could go live, me and my manager spent 4 months only doing diagnosis. Right? So it's very easy to sit and design a development journey and put some 3, 4 generic workshops and then take the
Right.
whole rigmarole through all of that. But we did not do that. We actually interviewed the role incumbents. We interviewed the reporting manager, and then we interviewed the vertical heads. And then based on the inputs that we got, we actually refreshed the job description of a team leader in operations, what exactly
Right.
they're supposed to do versus what they are doing right now, what is versus what is desirable.
Right.
Once the job description was done, we then actually built a new competency framework. Like, what are the exact practical knowledge, skill, and behavioral elements? So behavioral elements, by and large, remain same for the organization. So, looking at what knowledge and skills are required for a team leader role specifically. And
Right.
then, based on the competency framework, we actually asked their managers and peers and super bosses to give them a rack status. Which of these skills are red for them? Which are amber? Which
Right.
are green? And then we clustered the reds and ambers, which are pieces which are the biggest areas of development because of which people are not growing. Right? Because at the
Wow.
end of the day, you want to kind of build capability where you're not
Right.
just showing people a career path, but you're also supporting them in going through that career path.
Right.
Right. So this was actually a 2.5 year journey. Okay.
Wow.
And we covered over 1,400 team leaders across different
Right.
geographies. And, I won't say it changed the landscape of the competency
Right.
level, but 80% of the talent pool grew from within the organization. So you generally land up hiring operations managers from outside. But post this journey, we could fill in at least 80% of the open positions from within the organization.
Wow.
And that
Wow.
happens because you're not just sitting and recommending a development journey, but you're designing one which is based on the reality of that role. And it comes from the mouth of the reporting manager and the stakeholder because at the end of the day, they are the ones who are going to get service.
True. Absolutely. I mean, really nicely put, Gautam. And I'm sure like a solution like that would have had really large scale impact on the organization. And I'm sure work like this would kind of have seen recognition and would have also helped you kind of go up the ladder in those careers. So amazing advice for, of course, professionals who are in their career journey. Our listeners are curious. They often want to, of course, look at the financial side of the career journey.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how we also discussed, like at the start of the show, that economic incentives also need to be kind of aligned with where a career is going. So, and of course, based on your experience in talent management, can you just paint a picture on how a fresher's salary start at, and how what kind of growth can they look at and aspire to kind of do in 15 to 20 years if someone is continuing to upskill themselves, invest in their personal growth in this particular field.
So let me talk to you about growth as a person or in levels. I would say that when you are in the initial stage of your career, growth in terms of designation or levels is faster, and because you are contributing to a bigger top line, bottom line target, your career growth can be fast tracked anywhere between 12 to 18 months. So I'd say the initial 2 to 3 levels that you are in can be covered within the first 5 to 6 years of your career, right? Then once you, like, for example, if you start as a senior exec or a assistant manager, it's easy to scale up to a manager and senior manager level in 5 years. After that, it becomes leaner, right? Because as you keep climbing upstairs, you need to give every position a good 2 to 3 years for you to grow. In my experience, I can tell you most organizations wouldn't push you beyond 2 years to a new level or a new position. So that was at the 7th and 8th year of your career, you'll probably get into mid management. Then from the 8th to 12th is your growth phase, because then by that time, you're a subject matter expertise. So what you need to focus on is building your leadership capability, your emotional intelligence, people management skills, because by that time, you exactly know what your job is. What is important is how you manage your boss, how you manage your stakeholders, how do you manage your promoters. Those are the things that will start becoming important. And how is your global knowledge, right? So if you're in the BFSI industry, do you understand financial market? Do you know what an NBFC is? What is fintech? What is mutual fund? All those things matter a lot. You need to know that. What you need to do is to be able to add knowledge at a very global level. That is very important. Financially, in my 26 years of career, I can tell you it's a very flat structure. If you're the same organization, it's an Indian organization, you will have anywhere between 6 to 12% of growth year on year, depending on your performance. You switch jobs, it's on your negotiation skills. Sometimes you'll get 25%, sometimes you'll even get 50%.
Supply market, like for good talent, right?
That's true. So my career change to Uthut was something like that only, because it was based in Trivandrum and a lot of people wouldn't move there. I had a upper hand, so I obviously got a handsome raise, I would say. It's been a good experience. But yeah, so I would say 10 to 12% is the average growth good performing person should look at realistically.
And a fresher would typically start at what kind of salaries in the talent management space?
It depends on what kind of organization you're working with. So if you're working in an Indian organization, you can start at as low as 6 lakhs to 10 lakhs. If you're working in a multinational organization, that will be around 12 to 14. If you're working in an ITES organization or a consulting firm, then it can be as generous as 16 lakhs also. So, and then unfortunately, there are tags like the IAMs and the XLRIs that kind of add brand value, which I think is absolutely wrong, but that exists. So you can't ignore it. And when I go to these people, I tell them, I said, the problem with narcissistic leaders starts here. When you come out of a B school and you feel you're privileged enough to get extra salary, and that's where your attitude changes. So count more on your competence, less on the tags that you have.
That makes a lot of sense. And no, I think this was really nicely painted picture for anyone who is starting their careers in this space, and what kind of growth they kind of look at there. So Gautam, now it's time for some rapid fire round.
Okay.
I'll ask you quick questions, and they are going to be fun one. What is your go-to productivity hack?
Either a power nap or reading.
If you weren't in the talent management space, what would you be doing?
I'd be in the kitchen, you know that.
The one book every fresher should read?
I personally like, there's a book by a Chinese philosopher called Lao Tzu.
Okay.
It was a short story collection called Tao Te Ching, which is available in English. Very simple analogies. I recommend that everybody should have it.
Most rewarding part of your job?
Most rewarding part
of your job, like the talent management
people
space.
People.
One piece of advice that changed your career?
One piece of advice. Go for it. Just go for it.
Amazing. If you could have lunch with one famous person, dead, alive, who would it be?
Sunil Shetty.
A hobby or passion people don't know about?
I foster dogs. I'm very passionate about canines.
Your favorite quote for career motivation?
I don't know if it is for career motivation, but I think that's something that I swear by, which is by Maya Angelou. She says, in life, I've learned that people forget what you've said. People forget what you've done. People don't forget how you made them feel.
If you could sum up your career in one word, What would it be?
Very rewarding.
So, Gautam, with your extensive background in the talent management and organization development space, I'm sure
Mm.
you have a deep understanding of the hiring landscape. So, could you share some
Yeah.
insights on the current hiring trends in the industry? What key skills should freshers focus on developing to stand out in this competitive job market?
See, as a fresher, I think technical knowledge is very important. So I would say if you're diving into the talent management and OD space,
Right.
then you should have good knowledge of psychometric tests, all these disc profiling, MBTI. Technically, you should know what they mean, what kind of analysis do they come up with, what is behavioral profiling, what is value
Right.
analysis. The other thing is
Right.
the core of talent management OD is to drive change and culture. So you should have some sort of academic or technical certification on understanding values, beliefs, and behaviors, because that is exactly what you're trying to change or drive in people or influence people with. Their focus should more be on the technical skills or technical knowledge, because that's their job for freshers or experienced people in this field, is to be able to build a strong network. Right, people management is very important.
And about the hiring landscape, like how do you see the current hiring trends in the industry?
It's very dynamic, if you ask. We see a lot of organizations don't see value in hot leadership roles, and this is purely based on my experience. So a role like talent management and OD exists in very large organizations or organizations that
Support.
have mature people practices.
Right.
So it's not a job profile that you will see or have in every organization across in the country. So if you go to European countries and American, the subcontinent, talent management and OD jobs are a lot more common there. But in the
Right.
Indian market, it's still not established as a critical profession.
Amazing. And of course, I mean, this kind of makes sense in evolved organizations when there is a lot of resources. Talent management, of course, plays a very critical role. At Expertrons, we are a big believer in upskilling. Gautam, how important do you think it is for freshers to continuously upskill in their careers? And I mean, at Expertrons, we of course have programs in human resource. We have general management programs with EICT Academy, IIT Guwahati, and we have trained a lot of talent from like across different domains. And how do you think this lifelong learning, upskilling along your professional way? Because earlier it was all about getting your graduation or getting your post graduation and things like that, or learning along the job.
Yeah,
But yeah, how important do you think this lifelong learning is in a person's career path?
it's as important as having breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's a fuel for your growth, and it's nutrition for your development. So you will be outdated if you don't know what's happening around you. So experts like yourself who are well networked, who have a diverse set of courses and educational academic programs available, become the channel for newer talent to kind of learn and grow. If you go to my LinkedIn also, you'll see a list of certifications and technical practices that I kept doing through the, and not just related to HR. I also did a TOGAF certification, which is something that IT people do. But
Okay.
what
Yeah.
TOGAF helps you do is it helps you write process documents, right, in a very
Wow.
systematic way,
Wow.
which is also a part of my job. Like I write SOPs, I build policies, and then I learned about neuroscience, because at the end of the day, when you're coaching people and you're interacting with people, every time you talk to them, you're kind of evoking emotions and making
Right.
them release some hormones. And so what
Correct.
you
Correct.
say kind of releases the hormones, and you get people to respond to you in a more peculiar way, right? Like, for example, dopamine is one hormone that kind of, it's a reward hormone.
True.
So
Yeah.
you should know exactly what kind of communication you need to have with people,
Right.
which kind of
Right.
helps them release the dopamine, so that
Wow.
you are able to have a more successful outcome out of them. So
Wow.
it's very
Wow.
important to be able to keep adding skills, knowledge all the time. Otherwise, you'll not be able to grow. So when
Right.
you talk about competition and how do you kind of be edgier than your peers,
Correct.
that's the
And
only way you do it.
I would say, I mean, that's a sign of a good leader, and that kind of truly reflects in how your career has shaped up over years. The kind of investment you've done on yourself, the kind of interest you have shown in things like these, and it just shows that. And you did mention, like during our discussion, that you were invested in what that other vertical is doing, what their actual problems are ground up, and you had solutions around it. In a way would affect them to kind of pursue things which you're kind of launching as a program for them, kind of shows the, I mean, this would actually lead to an effective outcome in the organization. It's an absolute pleasure to kind of have this conversation with you and have you on the show. Before we wrap up, what's that one piece of advice you would give to freshers embarking on their professional journey today?
It's a very simple thing. Just learn to be a good human being. I'm telling
No,
you, in my 26 years of experience, I've only met two kind of people in my life. Only two. Ones, those are good human beings, and ones who are not. Simple.
Thanks for sharing your story insight with us today. To our listeners, don't forget that building a successful career is a continuous journey and upskilling is a key part of that. Check out Expertrons upskilling programs to give your career the boost it needs. Be sure to subscribe, share this episode, comment below, and stay tuned for more amazing career stories from the Success Playbook.